Hola, and welcome to episode 72 of Word to Your Mama. This podcast is about the life of a Latinx mama, that's me, and the lives of my amazing tribe, multicultural tribe. It's a celebration of shared experiences navigating this dynamic world. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Nah, B is our motto. Segments by the Supernatural Bear. He's 9, going on 49. Happen every episode, but other than that, this podcast will be explicit. Please believe it. Today we have Rita Bautista, founder of Latina Podcasters Network and Latino Pods. You guys have heard me tease about it, then announce the exciting news that Word to Your Mama is part of the Latina Podcasters Network. So I thought it was imperative to have her on, tell her story, and why she chose to go this route. So we talk about, her being on the show. It's coming off of the big news announced at South by Southwest, the tech and media week of the festival, where she finalized the partnership with Pod Digital Media, which is a Black-owned company. And so it's like Black and brown beauty. It's a beautiful thing. We discussed the non-linear career path and her being a nomad, her being a child of immigrants, and her mom is from Honduras, growing up in New Orleans, moving around to Baltimore, and because of Hurricane Katrina, ending up where she is now in H-Town, Houston, Texas. We also talk about the yoga practice that she has, because she teaches that, but she helps Black and brown folks to heal, and how that carries over into her professional life of being a founder, and how she has to set boundaries, and she's learning how it just kind of helps her on both ends. And also we get into where she found her passion, her calling, right, to be of service in all these different ways. Before we get started, I wanted to share some stats that the Latina Podcasters Network shared a couple of weeks ago. There are 116 million monthly podcast listeners. That's just like all across the board, different walks of life. 21% of the U.S. Latino population are reached by podcasts. And in 2020, a study came out with the data that the Latinx community has at least $1.9 trillion in buying power. And that was in 2020. We're in 2022 right now. So I think it's important to have podcasts created, hosted by, and for the Latino, Latinx, Latina communities. And a huge part of independent podcasts from that walk of life growing and getting the advertising dollars and exposure that they deserve, that we deserve, is going to happen because of Rita. She's dope. So let's get into it. Rita, thank you so much for being on Word to Your Mama. I really appreciate it. Let's start off by, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just getting back from South by Southwest in Austin, and that whole experience, if you haven't been there, is insane. It's creatives, it's everything. So yeah, it's really cool coming off of the high from that.
Amazing. Yeah, I used to go, because I worked in the music industry forever, and I used to go to every March, South by Southwest, and I was like, oh, this is Texas that I could totally see myself living in.
It's a different Texas, that's for sure.
It's a whole nother vibe. The food's fantastic. It's like, oh, is this, like in LA, there's like Silver Lake. It's like, is this the hipster, like Texas area kind of, sort of?
Yeah, it is. That's what it turned into, for sure.
I'm sure. And it's been a while. It haven't been since maybe like 2000, a long ass time, like 2007, maybe. So I'm sure it's like,
it's very different. And from what I understand, it's very different now, but I've never seen something so, how do I put it? Like, they take over the entire city. Like, there's things everywhere, and people are hosting their houses, and like it's really cool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
From what I remember, I shout out to Mr. D. Him and I would go, and it would, we would be like, oh, we're gonna see we'd go for the music portion, and we'd be like, oh, we're gonna see such and such and such and such. But because everything was happening everywhere, we'd just walk around the corner and be like, is that the one band we wanted to see? He's playing in some little like alley or some like little bar. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is amazing, especially if you're a music freak. But I've never been. You went to that's the tech week before the music
Yeah.
week?
Yeah. Tech and media. And it was pretty cool. I mean, I made a lot of really great connections with people. We signed an exclusivity deal with an advertisement agency, one of the largest ones for multicultural podcasts right now. So it's just been really great. The relationships, the connections that we made you wouldn't be able to put a price on that.
Yeah. And then also coming off of, everybody being indoors and everything having to be virtually, I'm sure the vibe, just watching your Insta stories, and I was like, oh man, that's amazing. I'm sure the vibe was crazy because everyone was like, we outside.
Yeah, basically, like you let us all off of punishment and now we're flourishing. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Yeah.
That's amazing. And felicidades, I was going to bring up, the big news that you come off and the stuff that you're doing. And how did that come about? Was there work leading up to the event, or did it all go down at South by Southwest?
Of course, as everyone thinks, like, oh my God, it's breaking news. It's like, no, this has been in the works for a while. Working with Pod Digital Media for the last pretty much year at this point. They have been instrumental in getting us really great brands for the podcasters to work with. And we monetize podcasts from small audiences all the way up to your traditional sizes. So it makes me really excited to be able to say, we helped monetize podcasts with really small audiences from the beginning. And they were part of that. And the opportunity came where they wanted to have exclusive rights to be able to continue to focus on leveraging our audiences to connect to these bigger brands that they already have access to, and us continuing to help them grow their pool of brands as well. So for me, I thought it was a win-win. It's a Black-owned business. The founder is from Haiti, and he is a New Yorker and now lives down in Miami. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It made a lot of sense because he already understands our brand and is very big on the promotion of the culture. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a good while coming.
That's
dope.
But
we're both going to be in Austin, so we decided to just, why not do it there?
Dope. Amazing. And I'm going to have a link in the show notes to the press release. And I just wanted this little snippet where Gary says, you can buy views, you can buy clicks, but you can't buy culture. And I think that's super important. And, the fact that it's like Black and brown unity. I know you're Afro-Latina, but and you represent like what you're taking us on this ride. And then Black and brown unity, people are shook.
Yeah, I'm excited. It gives me goosebumps to see how many people picked it up, how many people picked up the press release. Because when you start something as a labor of love, right? When you start something off, you really have to be hyper-focused in order to make sure that you're moving the needle every day, even if it's just a little bit. And for me, I've been moving this needle since 2019, since the day I incorporated the LLC. And which is really funny there, because that's a hilarious story. Like, no one ever incorporates a company on the 31st of December, but I did. I did, nobody ever does most of business the way that I've been doing it, but I have, and I could write a book about how not to do business. But that's the only way you're going to learn, is by making these big leaps and bounds and making decisions. And the more decisions that you make, the more you realize that there's never a bad decision. It's just a decision made that you hope is working in the best interest of the idea and the thoughts that you have as a founder. So yeah, I made a decision, and apparently everyone likes the idea. So it's a good one.
That's amazing. Felicidades. And I wanted to find out, where where did this passion come from? Like, I know you have your own podcast. We'll definitely have a link to that. Where did the passion come from? What was it like, the root cause of you taking these big leaps and bounds and representing us and getting us monetizing us in a way that we deserve? Where did that come from? How did you take the leap?
I think honestly, one of the biggest things for me is I was raised in a single parent household. My mom, I've watched her clean houses to like run businesses. So like my mom just never took no for an answer. And, she instilled that in me. And I think I've just always been that way. Whenever I wanted to do something, I was like, okay, and now I'm this, and nobody could tell me I wasn't. And, I think a lot of it comes from the scrappiness of who we are, of having grit and wanting to be that person who shows up is always a big deal for me, like making sure that if there isn't something there, to create it. I've created a lot of things along the way, and this is just one that I feel really serves best for my community. And, I would love for us to blow up and be like a multi-million-dollar company that is the global outreach for Latinas and Latinos to share their voices culturally all over the world. And I believe that that's actually going to be something that's going to happen. And it won't be just me going. I want to take everybody with me. And I genuinely believe that to be true. I've tried to be as transparent as possible in everything that I do too with this company, because traditionally in media, the talent gets screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's not what I want to do. I want to make sure that specifically in this woke culture that we're living in nowadays, people can do this stuff by themselves if they wanted to. It'll take them a lot longer, but they can. And, to convince somebody to come onto my platform or to come onto my network, because I want it to work for all of us in our best interest as a community, it's a big deal for me. So that's where I get it from. My mom, watching my mom, but at the same time, from my mama.
That's amazing. And I want to say that, it's an honor to be on this ride with you. And when we had a meeting, I didn't know you, and you do the search, the LinkedIn's, the da-da-da, but that kind of doesn't really tell you everything about a person. I work off of vibes. If it feels right, it's on and popping. So when I was in that one meeting and you were just like, I got this vibe of you real, the transparency. You weren't trying, there's like not all skin folk are kinfolk. And just because you're Latina doesn't mean you have my best interests at heart. Right? So I got to do my due diligence. And there was a vibe, the way you spoke, you were very passionate about it. You were just honest, and you were just like, da, 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 da. And I was like, I'm writing. I don't know where this is going, but I'm writing. And look at all the stuff. Like, you are grinding, you are doing the most for us. And I just want to say that I appreciate that so much. So let's go back. I want to know because I saw that you went to college in New Orleans, but where did you grow up? And I know right now you're in Houston, but where did it all start?
So I'm a nomad. I was born in New Orleans, raised in Baltimore. So for anybody who's a first gen immigrant, I'm sure some of us have similar stories where our parents first made it to a certain city and then they migrated to another place. So my mom first moved to Baltimore, and then when I was born, like when she got married, she moved to New Orleans, which is a huge Honduran population.
Mm.
It's probably one of the largest ones in the U.S.
Oh,
and then, and then we moved back to Baltimore when I was about 2, and I was there well into my teens. So to me, home is always Baltimore, Reisterstown, Maryland. It's a little town outside of Baltimore, and as my cousins always joke, they're like, "It's Pennsylvania." I'm like, "No, it's not." But and then family, then my mom's like, I don't want to shovel snow forever. We're going to go back to New Orleans. So we end up in New Orleans, and then Hurricane Katrina brought me to Houston. Oh. And living in Texas was the first time where I was like submerged in our culture outside of just my house or my family. And I was able to really see Latinos here thriving and creating businesses and empires and being here for generations and generations before Texas was Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that they try to ignore, that Texas was really Mexico. Um, like there are people here who've been here that long that have been in these spaces that are, thriving business owners or just in general, just being, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Without having to acknowledge that they are something or someone in this world, without having to validate their worth. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I know we have some really random ass. Sorry, can I say ass in here?
Totally.
Okay. We have really random ass policies and politics in Texas that,
Yeah.
is not always forward thinking, but in the space of business and in the space of representation, I haven't seen anything like this. And that's one of the things that really drives me to live in Texas, is because my community is here, my people are here, and they thrive.
That's
Kind of like
amazing.
California. Like California does it really well. I mean, I think in general, we're finally starting to see that, but this is a generational thing. This isn't like a brand new thing in Texas,
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And also just, I know from like the music tip, just how the community, especially in Houston, the community is rich and people collabo a lot, and it's not, that crab in a barrel mentality. And I love seeing that. So it's great to hear, all the other things that are going down in H-Town. So also, and I also know that you teach yoga, and that's a big part of you and what you do. And you posted, yoga is a holistic approach to physical, mental, spiritual well-being, and our class comes with a little extra sabor. Tell us about that sabor. What can people expect?
Traditionally, I think people are used to yoga being like this breathe in, breathe out, just like kind of thing. And it is. However, I like to add my Spanish music to my classes. I like to add R&B, hip hop. I like to add the things that really make me happy and move. And like, it's not all about just listening to like healing sound bowls, while you're moving. It's really about what gets you in your zen, what connects your mind, body, and spirit. And for me, my music is a healing therapy,
Please
and
believe it.
so when you do yoga and you're moving and you connect the mind, body, and spirit through whatever music you're playing, it really does help elevate, your spiritual connection to the body, to remind you to respect your boundaries in that space that you're in during that time. And I'm really big on that. I talk a lot about that in my classes. It's really funny because if you were in my yoga class, you would never really know that I'm doing all this stuff on the side. Like, not like this for me is, there's something beautiful about watching a person heal physically, mentally, and emotionally. And when you have taken somebody through a journey and at the end they're in Shavasana and you watch the body melt into the ground, you watch a person legitimately, you're guiding them and telling them to leave all their bullshit on the mat. Leave it, let it melt away, let it go, and it's legitimately, I could have a class on letting it go every single day and I would still see the exact same thing. We carry too much weight on our shoulders. We carry too much that we bring with us throughout our lives, trauma that maybe no longer serves us, that unfortunately we're like snow globes, and our lives sometimes need time for that snow to settle. And we never know how long it's going to take. But if you actively practice through yoga, meditation, or music therapy, or whatever the case may be, it starts to let you slowly unpack and leave that shit behind, And it's, I was gifted this last year, 2 years ago, because I lost my job. I was working in healthcare and I was making a lot of money in healthcare. And I lost my job. I got fired in November of 2020. So I guess, it was like last year. And that moment of shock is always that you're just like, what? I'm like, I'm a badass. Like, why am I gonna,
Yeah, totally.
But it is what it is. And I have no ill will towards the company. I get it. Like I had a bigger purpose in life, and you can only live life forward to understand why the things happen backwards.
Please believe it. LGBTQIA plus families have unique strengths and experience distinct challenges. At Pacific Oaks College in Pasadena, experience an education that will prepare you to support this community. The Masters in Marriage and Family Therapy LGBTQIA plus Studies program will train you to work with communities from any background while providing affirmative therapy to LGBTQIA plus individuals. Pacific Oaks College, experience that impacts community. Learn more at pacificoaks.edu.
I was able to build out Latina podcasters because of it, but I applied to a scholarship for yoga because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make any money. And I'm not really worried about making money through yoga. Honestly, for me, yoga is, it's a spiritual release for me, but it's also the way that I can give back to my Black and Brown communities.
Love that.
Of something that is so precious and something like this that we all should have access to. So to me, it's not about the money. I mean, obviously I do get paid to do it, but it's more about, I know what it did for me and I know what it does for me regularly. And I wanted to share that with my community and connecting it to our roots with music. So yeah, that's how I add my sazon and my sabor.
I love that. And do you also offer virtual or just in person?
I've been having a lot of people asking me for virtual, so that might be an option. I just don't want to overdo it and overdo myself because, again, going back to respecting boundaries, you know, knowing when you're getting tired or when you have to take a pause and breathe. And like, you know, the only way that I can be the only way I can be of service to people is if I'm respecting myself first.
Yeah, please believe it. So how has, you know, it was a crazy time. You got let go of your job. Then you go to yoga and now you're teaching and helping. I love that you're helping and giving back to the Black and Brown community. How has that impacted how you handle business? Like you do the boundaries and stuff like that. So now you're like, nah, does it? I'm sure it carries over, right?
Absolutely. 100%. I have a set time that I get started with work. I don't have technically a end time, but I do have a set time. And I also make sure that I work out throughout the day. I take a walk every day. It's a 45-minute walk outside. And it's been where some of my best ideas have come, but it does two things. One, I have a dog. And I've noticed just his happiness changes completely when I give him what he deserves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, like this is a perfect way for both of us to work out. But at the same time, it's a good break mentally. Some people think that in order to be successful, you have to be grinding like 24/7. And I don't believe in that.
No.
I believe a lot in manifestations. I believe heavily in putting out what you want into the universe and having yourself in the receiving mode to be able to receive those things. And like all these amazing things that are happening right now are happening because I gave myself the ability to say, I'm not going to work before this time and I'm going to get this done and I'm going to eat and I'm going to cook for myself and I'm going to read books that are enriching of my life, both professionally and personally, right? Yeah. So I'm big on professional and personal development as well, and knowing when I can say, I don't know how to do this or I need help. And that's another big thing that I mean, a lot of people forget. Like if you want to go big, if you want to go, there's a quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to, what is it? Yeah. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring your people with you. Right. And so like, I'm focused on that. I'm focused on asking for help when I need it. I'm focused on, ensuring that I respect my boundaries and knowing that self-care is the only way that I'm going to be able to help everybody else.
Yeah. That's real.
And that's stuff I've learned from yoga, meditating, but also just in general, like self-care is so important. I think that's why it's becoming such a common theme in our community, because for the longest time we were in that survival mode. Right. And it's like, if you don't worry about where your money is coming from, or if you don't worry about any of that stuff, it's going to come to you regardless. It just happens. It's just how it goes.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, as especially those of us that are children of immigrants, even though we might be in a completely different space with all these opportunities, it's that scarcity mentality. We don't want to spend, we didn't have the tools. And so we're just always, I have PTSD like all the time. And so I'm in that space of learning how to take care of myself, really taking the time. And, because especially as Latinas, as women, it's about, I think we were it was ingrained in us to take care of everybody else and fuck us. You know what I'm saying? And that no more, none of that.
I think just as women in general too, that's a natural thing that we think, well, we're not important, and it's like you're the person who makes babies. Like,
exactly.
Regardless to what your views are, in the most fundamental scientific piece, our bodies carry humans.
Yeah.
And for that human to live, we have to protect ourselves too, It's like when you're in an airplane and they tell you the plane goes down, you have to mask yourself first, regardless to whether or not you have your kids. You won't be able to be of service to your child if you have no oxygen yourself. So
exactly.
If we are bleeding ourselves dry and overworking and not giving ourselves the respect and the self-care that we deserve, we're not serving anyone. We're just being selfish we're not being selfish. We're being so selfless that it's not cute to always be super humble. It really isn't.
No, not at all. And that's why I feel like it's so important to talk about the different ways and not expensive ways, right? Taking the walk, that's free.
Yeah.
You could do take a class or look it up or just do some stretches.
YouTube
University for days,
everything.
It's stuff like that, and normalizing, destigmatizing mental health, because what we need to do, especially in our communities, mental health, spiritual health, it's all encompassing. It's all health. You can be running marathons, triathlons, whatever, but if you're not good inside, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it all catches up to you. Okay, so Rita, let's get into the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
3 words to describe yourself.
Bold. Loving. And determined.
Please believe it. We know all that. We know that for sure. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Deje que la busque. But that also applies to everything in life. Let them find you.
Yeah.
Let them find you, because when you put so much resistance on things, you don't allow the natural flow of life for things to just happen. So don't be so quick to worry about being found. Let them find you. Let the right people find you.
Yep. Like, just do your stuff. Just do you. Don't worry about anyone else. You should never worry about anybody else.
Yeah.
Like they say, what do they say? Like when you're running, when you're doing the track or whatever, don't look back. Like, don't worry about the people in the other lanes. Look forward, do your stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. Song to get you hyped when you need it. What is your go-to or your recent go-to?
Las Avispas by Juan Luis Guerra.
Woo!
That song's my jam. I don't know why, but it's just like I think it's just because he found his lane in spirituality, and like the song, just you can feel his energy come out of the song. I may not necessarily align with all of the things that he thinks, but it's just like, when somebody is in their vibrational center, like you just feel it, and you can feel it in that song. It's a good song.
You can't deny it. So I'll make sure I always have a link we have a Word to Your Mama podcast guest hype song list on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely add that. Is it the first? Anyways, it's hella eclectic. I'll put it on there. It's going to add so much flavor. Okay. Last question. What will be your legacy?
I think I'm building these businesses, right? That in and of itself is already a legacy. But I think my legacy is going to be just showing other people that with determination and a little bit of belief in yourself, that you can accomplish anything.
Please believe it. Please believe it. So let's talk about what you have in store. What is your vision for Latina Podcasters Network and Latino Pod? You're making big moves. What is your ultimate vision for what you're doing, the empire that you're growing?
This all started because I didn't see representation in this industry. When you look at Apple, still to this day, if you look at Apple and Spotify and their top charts, they don't reflect Black and brown people the way that they should. And we are massive all over the world, and not just Black and brown. I mean, like Asian, any minority in general, right? Like we can't keep believing that only white people produce great things. Like I'm over that part, right? Like, because even if you're and in this, I am a hype man for independent podcasters, and I'm a hype man for highly produced podcasts. I love all of it in between, but I also know that Crime Junkies came from two women who were building their own podcast, and then they were picked up by a network who gave them the producing arm. So there's no reason for us not to support independent podcasters. Yeah. So my biggest thing overall for both Latina Podcasters Network and Latino Pods is for all of them somehow or another eventually to be charting, and like real charts, not just society and culture chart number one. Like I'm talking about the top 100. Like, let's get behind this. Let's really start moving this movement forward. I want to be the largest global podcast network for Latinas and Latinos all over the world. And I want us to be a household name.
There it is. There it is, Rita. Muchísimas gracias for being here. Gracias for having, Word to Your Mama and me be part of this ride. I mean, I'm excited, and I love everything that you stand for, your passion. So muchísimas gracias for everything. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner. Supernatural Bear. Hello everyone, I'm the SNB16 or the Supernatural Bear. Yeah, really outdated theme song. We're going to change that soon. And today we are talking about Miss Rita. And before we get to today's real topic, I just want to thank her so much for helping this and many other Latina podcasts. And if you want to check out some other really, really cool podcasts, just search up the Latina Podcasters Network and you'll find other amazing podcasts, including this one, that you could, listen to. I just want to say thank you so much. And yeah. And for today's main topic, I would like to happily announce that I will soon be sharing some of my special stop motions to some of you Heck Yeah and Up Patreons. So, Heck Yeah and Up Patreons, if you are you want to see some more SMB content, there will be some stop motions dropping soon. I'm finishing editing them, and then I'll ask my mom to post them. So just a little update and thank you for the SMB corner today. Not much, but it's my corner. I get to do whatever I want. So yeah, just stay tuned for those Patreons. And thank you, Miss Rita, for helping this podcast and many others. This has been the SMB signing off.
Showbiz Dose. Yeah. There you have it, folks. Episode 72 of Word to Your Mama. Rita, she's a real one, man. She's a real one. And like I said, I work off of vibes, and I just keep having good ones off of her. That initial meeting when she was just kind of breaking it down to see if we wanted to go on this ride with her. And there was something about it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to, you just have to follow your gut. And I did. And then all this other stuff happened after the fact, after I signed the contract. And then we just had a town hall meeting, and it was with some of the who could make it from the Latina Podcasters Network and the Latino Pods Network. So we got to meet each other a little bit. She got to break down some new stuff on the pipeline in the future that is going to help us all grow, and how she's really, trying to do big things. And I appreciate all her work, and especially during that town hall, it confirmed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it confirmed my feeling, my gut feeling that this is the right move. She continued she didn't change from that initial meeting to get us in. It was like, if anything, she was even more transparent and just was like, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Breaking it down. So thank you to Rita and the Supernatural Bear. I mean, he's the curse word police. So even if he doesn't even want to listen to the beginning parts, though there is one episode that we did, it was the skate side, because I was his skate coach back in the days, skating with the Jerry curl. That episode, that's the one that I made sure so that he could listen to his coach's story, amazing story. So that one's cuss free, but he knows he doesn't want to. I get in trouble, guys. I get in trouble. So I can't even, he won't even say hell, and I can't say it. So when I'm around him, I got to say heck. And even that's a little risque, if you will. But again, thank you so much. Of course, as always, we are part of the Latina Podcasters Network. Check it out. Support us. Support this podcast. You can donate. You become a patron. You can buy us a whiskey via buy us a coffee. Buy me a coffee. And, we got the store going on. So if you need some pens, you need some tea towels, you need other things, go check us out. But, a free way to support is to tell your folks, tell your peeps, and tell your friends. You got any questions? You got any comments? You got any concerns? Let us know. Reach out. hola@wordtoyourmama.com. Also, if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps us as a whole, if you leave a review, I'll read it. Hopefully it's a good one and not negative, but I'll read it. I'll make that promise. So yeah, and as always, we reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritzy P. Intro beat produced by Nico Beats. If you want to know anything about Word to Your Mama, including Media Kit, go to wordtoyourmama.com. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by ritzyperiwinkle.com.